Chapter 41, Chapter 41, Mushroom, I've come to bargain. Chapter 41, Mushroom, I've come to bargain. Merlin was gone. Bowsette had absolutely no idea where he went, but there was a charred marking on the ground where he had previously stood. And now the mushroom soul floated in front of all of them. Toadette had fainted. Goombella and Captain Toad each were cowering behind Luigi, who was cowering behind a tree. Only Mario, Peach, and Bowsette could stand before it and keep themselves strong. Though Bowsette had to admit she was very worried about this.
Is it doing anything?
Peach asked. Mario separated his feet as if he was going to lunge at it in a sudden attack. Don't jump, man. Don't. It seemed like it was staring at Bowsette directly. It did not have eyes, but its gaze was still piercing and sharp. It stuck a hand over Mario's head, and a surge of electric energy zapped around flashing in a nearly blinding brightness. But when it stopped, nothing had changed. Mario had no innate magic inside of him, so this was to be expected. He was a human from another world, one where magic did not exist. Peach, however, was a pure-blooded toadstool royal, and the mushroom soul was sticking its hand towards her now. Bowsette realized what was going on and pushed Peach out of the way. She spread both her arms wide.
Mushroom! Take me instead! I have come to bargain with you!
It seemed to accept this, and placed both its hands on top of Bowsette's head. The super crown atop it lost its glow and fell off her head, but she did not immediately transform back into the Koopa she was on the inside. Instead, she began to glow herself, and then Bowsette found herself in an ethereal realm, glowing with an infinite array of colors swirling about like the inside of a rainbow star. She could not see herself. Her entire physical form had been erased. Instead, she saw several bodies floating around above her. Her body as Bowser, regal and posed like a true King Koopa sitting at a throne. Her body as a half-human, with a long black gown and one that modestly covered up the cleavage she usually let hang out for her own amusement. There was also Giga Bowser, a form she had not utilized in a long time due to the strain on her body it usually took. There was herself as a baby, pouting and insufferable like she had always been, and herself as Dry Bowser, a husk of bones and pure, refined fury. And then hailing above them all was a mighty dragon, as if Bowsette had somehow been turned into an animalistic beast and was roaring down at its enemies. And then Merlin appeared. But he did not act as Merlin would, not gaping or sneering or grimacing. He simply stood in place with no expression on his face.
You are the being who is referred to as Bowsette,
Merlin said.
I am the mushroom soul. Merlin, what's happened to you? What's happened to me? I am the mushroom soul. This host was absorbed for study.
Merlin's body said.
Magic in all its forms has many different types, many different uses. This host has seen much. So we're dead. I have absorbed you of your own request. However, you are not useful to me. You have nothing inside of you. What are you talking about? I am the Lordess Bowser, King of the Koopas, the White Knight of the books. You do not have a soul of magic to study,
it said.
Your power is ancestral. It lies within your blood. It is not useful and I cannot interact with it. But at the castle, you sealed my magic power.
If she had a form here, she would be pointing up to the various versions of herself circling above, pleading for it to look at them and realize.
I did no such thing. The magic I took when I was first brought together as one was very minimal. It was a star shard fragment used as the essence on a weapon, and it was a transformation spell in the form of a minor power-up. I studied them but I did not need to.
Bowsette was confused.
I'm confused. Your magic is not something that is relevant to my study,
it explained.
Your power is a part of your being and not an essence of soul. Its only limits are your own self, and that is not a useful endeavor for what I wish to learn.
So, her magic wasn't sealed? It was. Herself all along? She was inhibiting herself? What a cliché that was.
Well then, damn it, let me out of here. And give us back Merlin, too. I cannot do that, being known as Bowsette,
it said.
The Merlin soul is powerful and I desire it. I will give it back when I am done. What about me then? You accepted giving yourself up to me. I appreciated the gesture and took it. Well, that was before I knew. Come on, soul guy.
Merlin's body faded, and so did the forms floating above. Now there was nothing in her field of vision except for this massive sphere of color.
Very well. I will consider Merlin as the piece of offering to give you back what I took from you. It will be a bargain, that way, then. So you're giving you back the super crown and star shard energies. And letting you go. Nothing more than that. I have no desire to grant anything further.
Bowsette didn't like Merlin, but she really didn't think it was exactly fair that he was suddenly some sort of bargaining chip. But her conscience was overruled by the logic that she was dealing with a being of entirely different rules than her morality system, and let it go.
I accept,
Bowsette said.
Thank you. I do not understand what that means.
And then, Bowsette appeared again, but in full lizard form, now once again 8 feet tall and with her mannish scaly face. The mushroom soul floated away as quickly as it came, but now Bowsette was here. As Bowser. She noticed the dazed expressions of the faces of the 6 others looking at her, and froze up. She didn't like the looks on their faces. She didn't like looking like this. But there were 2 objects in her hands, a star shard, and a super crown, both glowing and ready for use. As quickly as she could, she grabbed the super crown and placed it on her head, transforming back into the princess-esque form she held so dearly to herself. The star shard was useless, so she tossed it aside.
What happened?
Asked Peach.
You were there, and then suddenly. Kaka,
Bowsette laughed.
Kaka. Kaka.
From the shell on her back suddenly sprouted 2 large wings, black as night and matching perfectly the color of her dress. As she continued to cackle, she took off into the sky, flying around in the air and spinning in circles. She was back. She was Bowsette, King Koopa, Lordess of the Mushroom Kingdom, Supreme Commander of the Koopa Troop, the Molten Mistress, who cared what kind of stupid title she had. She was back.
Kaka.
Bowsette aimed her head upwards and a jet of fire burst forth, singing the trees below from the sheer intensity of the heat. From up here she could see the world before her. Shroom City to the east. Mount Rugged to the south. Jewelry Land to the north. And out to the west, far enough that her eyesight could barely reach the distance, she saw the mountainous edge of dark land. Her home. The home she would take back. She let her wings draw back into her shell and fell to the ground, floating gently with the Super Crown's gravity-defying dress. When she landed, the 6 allies who had helped her stared in complete non-comprehension. She didn't explain. Instead, she stomped right up to Princess Peach, grabbed her by both cheeks, and pulled her in for a kiss. Their lips met and weaved into each other, and Peach put her arms around Bowsette's neck to keep her close. Bowsette warmed up her lips just a smidge, making each moment of this kiss burn with the fiery passion she felt on the inside. But after only a few seconds, Peach broke away and slapped Bowsette across the cheek yet again. Ow!
What happened, Bowsette? Please explain.
She commanded.
Well,
Bowsette felt her lips and realized there was pink lipstick on them.
I bargained with the mushroom soul. I got my powers back. And Merlin. He didn't make it.
She wasn't going to tell her that her powers had been all just a mental block all along, that Merlin was the bargaining chip she had used to gain back her own life. Nor would she explain that the mushroom soul was on some sort of quest for knowledge and that leaving it to roam was one of the most dangerous things they could ever do. Instead, she would let all of them focus on the task at hand. Which was mourning a lost ally, even if he was a creep.
I'm sorry,
Bowsette added.
Well, at least you're back,
Luigi said.
That means we can. You can search for help.
Of course Luigi was going to back out of this as soon as he was able. He was like Boom Boom in that regard.
No, I will certainly need your help,
Bowsette said.
I need my generals back, but I have not been able to find any word of King Boo. Given your...
Bowsette fell to the ground and passed out. End of chapter. Chapter 42, Chapter 42, The Purple Ones. Chapter 42, The Purple Ones. Big timer at the center of the island. Explosives lined all around it. Probably ain't gonna pass that. That's okay. Don't need to, don't want to. Piranha plant guards joking with each other, singing tunes, escorting Nabbit down the road. He wasn't a prisoner, right? So much to bag and grab. But this was kind of foreboding. Not exactly a castle here. Then again, not exactly a tropical paradise. Lots of trash. Scrap metal. The kind of stuff that's expensive. But not good for nabbing. Not good for Nabbit. They entered the house. There he was.
Wah!
Waluigi wa'ed.
Hey there, what's up? Got a message for you. Just a messenger. Won't bag, won't grab.
That's what he told Flutter, but then he stole Flutter's family vase. Couldn't help it. Very nice porcelain.
Nabbit. So we meet at last.
Waluigi said. Wasn't in his normal clothes. Overalls or tennis clothes, that sort of thing. He was in a long dark robe. Like he just woke up. It was 6 in the evening.
Good to be here. Good to meet you. Good times,
said Nabbit.
My piranha plants have always wondered what rabbit tastes like. Care to teach them?
Waluigi snickered. Thought he said something clever. He really didn't.
Got a proposition for ya. Bowser's kingdom's gonna get attacked. Gonna get pillaged. Lots of weapons to find. Lots of money to make. But we need your bombs. Lots of them. Piranha plants too. Really helping us out here, Waluigi. The good old Gamma bro.
Can't, Waluigi said.
Can't. Can't. You really can't? I really won't. That's different. I was being polite. You're never polite. I know. What a good trick, hey. Pretty solid. Explain why you won't. Don't care. What if I said Daisy will be there? Will she? No. Then why would you say it? To get you to go. Makes sense. So will you if you help out. I'll what? Make sense. You mean, make sense? That's what I said, make sense. I got enough money. Sure you do. But what about Wario? What about him? He never has enough money. Give him money. Nah. We're not on speaking terms right now. Why not? I'm talking to you. Give me money. Give yourself money. I'd have to get a job. Good point. Nah, I won't help. Really? Really? You're sure? I'm adamant. Alright then. I'll see you next time I take over the world,
Waluigi said.
I'll be there to steal your stuff,
said Nabbit. Good convo. Lots of progress. Very fruitful. What a guy. End of chapter. Chapter 43, Chapter 43. Chapter 43. Kimitachi no Kanton no Sekai, the world of your chaos. Toads all over Koopa's Tycoon Town were protesting the arrival of Princess Peach for a formal ceremony dedicating a statue of Notwing the Koopa, a philanthropist who had recently passed away. They were all dressed in bright pink clothes and holding signs reading things like, "Koopas get out!" and "Mushroom Kingdom for mushrooms." There were chants and there were yells, but things were calm until Peach herself arrived at the scene. She stood to the back of the ceremony, coming forward only at the end to cut the ribbon.
"I only knew Notwing briefly during his time on Earth,"
she said from some prepared remarks.
"But from what I knew of him, he was a gentle, caring."
Someone threw a bottle of courage soda and it shattered just at Peach's feet. Several Toad guardsmen stepped forward and pointed their spears towards the crowd. Peach was quickly escorted back towards a secure warp pipe away.
"Got the traitors!"
a Toad shouted.
"Collaborators!"
another added. And then with little warning, chaos broke out. 20 or more Koopas, dressed in all black and wearing bandanas over their faces, entered the crowd and began accosting the Toad protesters.
"Koopas resist!"
one of the black-clad figures said just before punching a pink-clad Toad in the face. They pushed the Toads away, stole their signs, and it quickly escalated into an all-out brawl. The Toad guardsmen stood in front of all the officials, waiting for a protester or someone to charge the statue and attack, but it never happened. They were too interested in beating each other up. Later that night, the statue would be blown up by a rogue agent with a spare bomb. The fights would continue throughout the week. There was an explosion outside, rocking the bunker and making General Guy spill his zesty all over himself. Oh, what a bother. But those explosions were a good thing, he noted. It meant that the enemy forces were falling right into his trap and were colliding with the mines floating just above the ground. Knowing the usual way these attacks went, they had just sent in their hammer bros, and those forces were being decimated to make way for the more valuable bullet bill barrage forces. But General Guy had confidence in his men to take down the cannons before they had been finished setting up. They always did. Shy guys may have been bad at social interaction, and they may not have been bright. But they sure as underwear were good fighters, and that was a fact. General Guy was going to pour himself a new cup of tea, because he needed some extra energy while he plotted the rebellion's next move. They had lost a quarter of their territory in recent days, but they were easily going to get it back so long as they. The explosions stopped. What was going on now? General Guy sped from his current position in the bunker and near the main entrance. If the Shy Guys had been defeated, then they would have blown the hatch and sealed this place off from the outside. The only other way in was through an elaborate maze-like system of tunnels only General Guy had the map to, and that would never be breached, not in a million years. So they couldn't have lost, surely. But the explosions should still have been going on if the battle was still going. No side could have defeated the other that quickly. He found a viewport that led to the surface and looked around. Lots of Shy Guys laying around. Lots of hammer bros, too. And then, whoa baby! Giant eye in front of the viewport. This had glasses on, so it definitely wasn't a Mr. Eye ready to burst in and start shooting bubbles all up the place. It was too bad he couldn't communicate. Oh, the figure was backing up. Hey, wasn't that one of those couplings? The one with the green hair and glasses, the one people called the Conqueror? He was thrown in prison a while back, but it looked like he got out. What was he doing out here all by himself? Waving, is what it looked like. He seemed to want to get in. He held up a magic wand and twirling it around the place, trying to get someone's attention, and it definitely got his. He went over to the entrance and unsealed the hatch, where he could let new soldiers in if they needed. Any good tactician would do this for another good tactician. End. There were a group of hammer bros waiting outside the entrance. That coupling came down as fast as he could and reached General Guy, where he was laughing and running. And transforming back into Dupliss.
Man, you guys are so easy!
He shouted.
I keep pulling the same trick and I got the whole darn Shy Guy army.
General Guy was at a loss for words. And he was at a loss for men, and a loss for victories. He lost.
I'm gonna keep doing this, man,
Dupliss said.
I don't even care what the pay is. It's so much fun.
The master poet of Toad Town sat in his normal spot in Club 64, with calm music playing in the midday lull while the bartender cleaned off all the tasty tonic glasses in relative silence. It had been a long weekend, but now the weekdays were upon them, and they could get some rest.
I'm at a loss for words,
the master poet said, fiddling with a pencil and looking over an empty notebook.
I can usually do this, but for some reason, I am coming up with nothing. I can't even rhyme.
The bartender looked at him, and then looked over to Chanterelle, the master poet's muse. She hadn't spoken lately, either. She was usually very soft in her words, and easily lost the will to talk, but what had been happening around the Mushroom Kingdom lately? It was no surprise that she hadn't sung in a month, either. She hadn't the willpower. The bartender himself had been having business troubles lately. With his pro-Koopa, pro-Goomba stances on letting patrons of any creed, any background enter Club 64, many toads had called for a boycott. It was hurting business, and the weekdays often saw no patrons other than the regulars. These three were a sad sack of mushrooms, it seemed like. Toad Town was a lot like that these days. And then the front door swung open, with a toad in pink and bright sunglasses bursting in. He sauntered over to the bar and shook the bartender's hand.
"Zip Toad, at your service," he said.
He was the award-winning actor behind such hits as The Night is Short, Walk on Toad, and The Toad Who Leapt Through Toad. What was he doing here?
Hello,"
said the bartender.
"I'm here to make Toad Town great again,"
Zip Toad said.
"By making a movie." "And I need your permission to shoot here,"
he added.
"It's going to be a movie all about the wonders of toads and how toad pride is a good thing, not a bad thing, despite what some people may say. Toads matter too, you know? Everyone does."
This certainly sounded a bit.
"I'll rent out the entire club for 3 nights, and buy your entire drink stock. That sound okay? I'm my own producer, my own director, and surprisingly my own composer, believe it or not. You in?"
The master poet stopped.
"Do you still need a writer?"
he asked.
"Dude, you are welcome to give a rewrite a shot. I've got a draft ready, but it definitely needs some punching up."
Zip Toad flashed a smile.
"And this pretty lady over here? She sings,"
the bartender said.
"We can use her, for sure,"
he said.
"I'm so excited about this. We're making this happen." "What's the movie called?"
the bartender asked.
"Nothing official yet,"
Zip Toad said.
"But I like the Toad of a Nation."
Dry Bones sat in a prison cell in a deep floor of the Koopa Bros fortress, just like he had for the past 15 years. He was honestly thinking they might have forgotten he existed, that his prison sentence would be forever because they assumed a reanimated pile of bones was somehow dead just because it wasn't moving anymore. "No, you anti-undead bigots, Dry Boneses could survive without moving, unlike you stupid fleshies." Oh, who was he kidding? He was never getting out of here. His sentence was supposed to be 8 years. All he did was kidnap a Yoshi hatchling and try to sell it on the black market. 3 years was enough, surely. But seeing as he was in basement floor 30 of a prison whose spaces hadn't filled past floor 23 in years, he doubted anyone even remembered he existed. He just wished he could escape himself. No need to eat, sleep, drink. Just lay here until someone showed up. Or if something was rumbling deep beneath the ground. A large drill emerged and there was a tank filled with Monty Mole soldiers hopping out and assuming positions. Dry Bones formed and bowed to the commander that stepped out, a frog.
"Sir, are we in the Koopa Bros prison?"
the frog asked. She looked at the Dry Bones with great interest.
Yes you are,"
he said.
"Good. Then it is time for us to begin. A jailbreak."
End of chapter. Chapter 44, Chapter 44, Wakey Wakey. Chapter 44, Wakey Wakey. Bones stirred. Eyes lit up in a glitter. The final prize awaited. He laughed. Hey. Bowsette fluttered her eyes open and realized she was laying in her bed, in some pajamas, and the sun was shining bright in the sky. That was weird for a couple reasons. Number 1, she never slept in pajamas, she exclusively slept in the nude and always had. Number 2, the last thing she remembered was being in a forest and getting her powers back. Why was she in bed? Did she take some forget-me-nows by accident? Well, whatever the reason, she didn't think it was that important. She undressed, took her shell off, and went into her bathroom, where she was going to take a warm and relaxing bath in the tub. Ah crap, she tripped over her own feet. Apparently, her legs were very sore from not walking. How long had she been asleep? Oh well. She stepped into the tub and let the warm water tickle her skin. She set it to as hot as it could possibly go, but it wasn't a tenth as hot as what Bowsette preferred. She almost started to miss lava baths at this point. Oh well. As long as she was here. This was good enough. Wait. If she was remembering correctly, Bowsette pointed her mouth down towards the water and blew a hot fire outwards. It extinguished quickly, but it reminded her that, yes, her powers did work again. In fact, it was only her own stupid non-functioning brain that had made her trick herself into blocking use of those powers. She was in a very dark place, geez. Realizing that, she breathed more fire out and heated the tub up until it was absolutely scalding. Oh yeah, when the water bubbles, that's how you know you've got a toasty bath. Whatever happened between getting those powers back and ending up here, she still had absolutely no memory of, but it must not have been incredibly exciting even so. She kind of wondered where, a shriek from the bedroom. What was wrong? The shriek sounded like one of the toad handmaids, not someone important, so yeah, Bowsette was just going to stay in the bath if that's alright with you. Soon though, the toad handmaid entered the bathroom, fretting about and carrying with her Princess Peach.
She was here, and then she's here,
the handmaid said, her nervous nature immediately disappearing when she realized that the issue had been resolved.
Thank you,
Peach said. She left, and as soon as she did, Princess Peach ran over to the tub and gave Bowsette a tight embrace. Bowsette felt warm from the bath already, but this was a whole new feeling. Peach let go and looked at all of the water all over her dress.
I probably should have done that. And Brighton, you're hot. What, are you bathing in lava? Oh.
Peach noticed the fact that Bowsette's bath was literally boiling.
I'm so glad you're okay. Okay? What happened? Peach.
Bowsette leaned back and put her head against the back of the tub. Peach's eyes looked down as she was clearly distracted by the fact that Bowsette was, taking a bath, and was making no attempt to hide her stare.
What do you mean what happened, Bowsette? You've been in a coma for a week. I have. That would certainly explain why I couldn't walk without tripping and why I'm sore all over. What's up with that? Well, we went over to the Toadwood Forest and you conversed with the Mushroom Soul and completely disappeared for a little bit. You came back out, sprouted some wings and flew around, and then you just passed out. That's all. Sure you're not leaving out any details?
Bowsette asked.
Sure doesn't seem like it's the full context.
Bowsette moved forward and leaned over the edge of the tub, hiding her chest from view. Peach still blushed, though.
Of course not. That's it. Nobody could figure out what could have been the cause. Definitely not that big old smooch I planted on you.
Bowsette asked. Peach took a few steps closer into the tub and raised a hand to slap her, but then slipped at the last second, nearly falling in the tub. Except that Bowsette caught her by the hips and pushed her back on her feet. Peach burst into laughter. But that was no laughing matter. Peach's skin would be covered in third-degree burns if she got in this tub.
I gotta say, you sure have changed, Bowsette,
Peach said.
Who knew you ever knew how to treat a lady?
The 2 wives she had already had, probably.
I had to learn, or else all that kidnapping would have been for nothing. Anyway, it looks like you're awake. Yeah. I guess. When the mushroom soul spit me back out, it had a large effect on me? Something like that. I couldn't understand anything otherwise. That sounds about right,
said Peach. She stepped up to the tub again, treading more carefully this time, and sat on the edge of the tub next to where Bowsette was leaned over.
So do you think you're up for searching for your generals and whatnot? What? Not yet.
Bowsette said.
I feel terrible.
She imagined how her children felt, fighting for their lives at this very moment. And the fact she was complaining while sitting in a hot tub. She really was a terrible person.
I mean, just give me another day or 2. That's fair enough. Maybe we can have a small party or something to help you rest up. If that's what you want. I do.
Peach smiled. Bowsette smiled back.
So, how's the princess doing at her princessly duties now that she's back in her castle?
Peach sighed loudly.
Exactly how you would expect,
she groaned.
The Chancellor is so hard to deal with. I don't know what's come over him. And all the areas trying to secede or gain more autonomy and whatnot. It's getting worse. I even almost got attacked by protesters the other day. This is all your fault, you know, Bowsette. I'd apologize, but I don't know if it was actually as much me as you think,
Bowsette said.
I was only in charge for a month or 2, right? If things are still this bad, then it just means the Mushroom Kingdom wasn't as stable and peaceful as we thought. That, or someone's trying to make it seem worse on purpose. Neither of which are good options.
Peach seemed so stressed out. She was just lounging around the castle, and yet she was all dressed up like she was going to have to perform some ceremonial duties or meet with the press or something.
It sounds like that party might be more for your health, hey?
Bowsette giggled.
Maybe. I think a break would be good. That's why I'm excited to get to adventuring again. This castle life stuff is hard. Tell me about it. That's why I abdicated. Maybe I will too,
Peach said with a straight face, before laughing. It was a beautiful laugh. Too shrill, a little too high-pitched and feminine to be taken seriously. Exactly how it should have been. That's who Peach was.
So, you wanna go get some ice cubes, and then come back here and join me?
Bowsette asked. Peach chuckled and shook her head.
Not today, Bowsette. But don't worry, you'll get your chance.
She leaned in and pecked Bowsette on the cheek.
You know,
Bowsette said,
it almost feels like you've fallen in love with me. I have, though. The feeling's mutual,
said Bowsette.
Finish your bath and I'll bring you some lunch,
Peach said.
You're probably starving.
Bowsette saluted her as she left the bathroom. End of chapter. Chapter 45, Chapter 45, Funky Flights. Chapter 45, Funky Flights. Why were they taking a commercial flight? Why the heck? Peach had 4 suitcases, 3 of which Bowsette had to carry, and they had Mario and Goombella accompany them. Peach was the royal ruler of House Toadstool, sovereign queen of the Mushroom Kingdom, for Brighton's sake. Bowsette was the lordess of the extreme prophecy, Claw of Fate, for Brighton's other sake.
It's a goodwill gesture,
Peach said, seemingly reading her, Koopa friend's mind.
Oil prices have skyrocketed thanks to current events. And if we take my private plane, it will look absolutely wretched to the public. So here we go. If we run into any trouble, well, that's why you're my bodyguard.
And that's why Bowsette was dressed up like a human-sized shy guy with a black cloak and funny-looking mask over her head, to protect Peach. Not because if word got out about her reappearance it'd be an international diplomatic crisis.
I can't believe you won't let me go down to the outpost, claw up a few mousers, and be done with it. It's a mercy mission, really. They're hoarding all their resources for themselves. The Dry Republic has been officially recognized as an independent nation now,
Peach said.
I gave them my word I would lay down my arms against them, and that I would respect their sovereignty. I can't let you break that, even if it is hurting our own economy. Quite a lot.
Peach held obvious contempt for the fact that they were having to walk through a crowded Funky Flights airport and board a cramped commercial airplane.
They did do one thing right,
Bowsette said.
Jonathan Jones is a hero. If there was anyone who could defend the coast with so little like he did, I have never heard of them. We should knight him ourselves, he's so good. We don't have knighthood in the Mushroom Kingdom,
Peach said.
And maybe that's why my armies always defeated yours.
Peach shrugged. They were almost to the plane, now, but then Peach suddenly stopped.
Wait, where are Mario and Goombella, anyway? Probably off smooching in the family restroom,
Bowsette said. She kept walking on past Peach, until she realized she was no longer moving. She sighed.
Ha. You're probably right. Maybe I shouldn't have invited them to this party after all. It's going to cause a lot of drama.
What, were they all teenage girls all of a sudden?
I mean, you can't have a Mario party without Mario. Well, maybe it should be a Peach party, because I'm always the one paying for them.
Bowsette shrugged this time.
Well, come on. They'll board the plane eventually. You don't have to worry. Yeah.
Bowsette was dressed up like a fool, but she could still cheer Peach up a little bit, and that was what mattered. They got on the plane and, eventually, it took off, headed straight for Isle Delfino. End of chapter. Chapter 46, Chapter 46, Bowsette Party, Zetar Rush. Chapter 46, Bowsette Party, Zetar Rush. Bowsette cried. She couldn't stop crying, but you know what? That was fine. She was just so happy. Never in a million years did she ever think she'd be invited to one of these parties. They always excluded her, and that was always. She practically always crashed those parties, sabotaging them and ruining things for all the people having fun. No matter how many kart racing tournaments she won, or tennis matches she smashed, or dance competitions she completed in a frenzy, or friendly fighting tournaments she dominated, nobody ever let her join in on these parties, not ever. Mario, Peach, Bowsette, and Goombella had met up with friends like Donkey Kong, Luigi, Wario, and Boo at the Isle Delfino airport and took a short boat trip over to Mega Fruit Paradise, where a new party board had recently been constructed. It was a beautiful island filled with, well, very large fruit, and just the right amount of fun party ability. Pom Pom, Boom Boom's betrothed who Bowsette once, interacted with more than she'd like to remember, was also here, in a surprise, though Boom Boom was nowhere to be found. It was awkward, and for once she would have liked to pretend she was a different person, but her dual identity had been international news to practically everyone except for the isolated communities in Bowser's kingdom itself, so she was forced to make small talk with her and pretend everything was just spiffy between them. Everyone seemed to be taking Bowsette's Bowsette herself pretty well. On a private, secluded island they didn't have to worry about hiding her away, but they also didn't seem to mind the fact that she was presenting herself as a full-fledged female now. Even Wario was hitting on her by showing her his boogers and all that disgusting stuff he had never done when she was just Bowser. It was really just a fun atmosphere, nothing holding them back but themselves. It was a great place to recover after all. She suspected that the fact she had become a smoking hot, half-human instead of giant hulking muscle Koopa might have played into the way everyone was so much more ready to accept her, but she didn't feel like analyzing the dynamics of appearance and prejudice right now because she was partying. Finally, here she was, holding a dice block in her hands, bawling her eyes out because of how much she had looked forward to this opportunity all her life but only received it now, at this very moment. Wow! Holy wow! She tossed that block. And it landed on a 2. She actually got to move 2 spaces ahead. Bowsette got to move 2 spaces ahead. Wow! After a while of playing this party game with absolute ferocity, destroying everyone in every mini-game and clawing her way towards all the stars, she was at the top, number 1 on the charts. She had 7 stars, a boon compared to the number 2 player Donkey Kong, who had only 3. Peach still hadn't gotten a single one, as much as Bowsette was rooting for her. Mario and Goombella were too busy flirting to get much done, but they had still both gotten one. She reached a Toad who congratulated her and asked for 20 coins for a star. Again? Come on. You guys have to be rich by now, surely.
You know what? I'll take that off your hands for free.
Bowsette said.
No, 20 coins please,
the Toad said.
You drive a hard bargain. 13. Do you have 20 coins, ma'am?
Bowsette grumbled and handed over the stuff. Yay, star number 8. The game went on a little bit longer, and she realized that everyone was starting to look at her. By her 12th star, she came to the conclusion that winning was not actually the main goal of these parties, and that she was probably taking this a little bit too seriously. But she was so far ahead that she was never going to lose now. Oh no! This was why nobody wanted to invite her to parties, wasn't it? No. She cried again as she threw the dice block, but it was now because she realized, in her hubris, she had become her own worst enemy, just like always, ruining everything because of her dumbness. But luck saw it a different way. She had rolled a 1, a perfect number to move right into. Chance time.
Yo 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 yo.
Tumble, a weird-looking dude with a giant dice on his head, said as he zoomed over to Bowsette's location. 3 blocks appeared behind her and began rotating rapidly.
I've never gotten chance time before. And now you get to do it.
Tumble shouted with a squeaky glee.
Hit those blocks to determine who's gonna get what.
Maybe this could be the way she'd even things out. She would give all her stars to Peach and then she'd be in the back of the pack. Oh yeah. Let's do this. Block 1. Bowsette. It was a modified Bowser symbol with a little crown added on top. Probably the best they could do on such short notice. To add some suspense, she walked over next to go to the 3rd block to see who the recipient would be. Block 3. Peach. Yeah. Let's get this. Block 2. $5 coins. Peach was laughing, but it was all Bowsette could do to keep from crying about how badly she had ruined her chance there. Still, she kept playing, intentionally losing many games without making it look obvious, like falling over when she was wearing the very heavy penguin suit or not winding up her mecha fly guy enough. But even so, she still had 120 coins when she stumbled upon the next toad.
Hey! 20 coins for a star!
The toad shouted with enthused excitement.
Actually... No thanks,
Bowsette said.
Wait. What? I have the option to say no, right? I guess so? Nobody's ever done it. Well, that's why I, Lourdes Bowsette, Terror of the 15 Seas, Chomper of Mega Fruit, am special. I refuse any and all extra advantages that come my way.
She slapped her hand against her chest as a prideful gesture and then realized that really hurt.
Okay, then. See you around.
The toad said. Yep, that went well. When it was Luigi's turn, and he was deliberating for 10 minutes on whether or not to use his skeleton key, Peach came over to Bowsette and grimaced.
What are you doing? What do you mean?
She folded her arms.
You know exactly what I mean. You suddenly stopped playing and everyone is noticing. It's kind of rude. I mean... No, I didn't.
Bowsette lied.
Oh, okay, fine, I thought maybe I was taking it a little too seriously, because I got so far ahead of everyone.
Peach giggled.
Oh wow, you really haven't done one of these parties before, have you? Everyone knows the winner is only ever decided at the final couple turns with all the bonus stars and special events. Really? You'll see.
They entered the final stretch of turns, and lo and behold, chaos ensued. Wario stole 2 stars from Bowsette with the booze he had been storing all this time. Luigi finally used his skeleton key and went through a secret gateway that turned out to be housing a secret star. Mario used a genie lamp to warp over to the star, and then as soon as he received one, the next star space popped up right next to him. Bowsette was now in a dead heat with the others. 10 stars, compared to the 8 that Mario had, the 8 Wario had, and the 6 Goombella had. DK was still stuck in an enclosed area where he had to roll into a happening space to get out, but his luck was not very high these days. In all of this, though, Peach still only had 2 stars. What the heck, dude? She thought very long and hard about challenging Peach to a duel with her dueling glove, betting a bunch of stars, and then losing, but that would come at the risk of accidentally whining, and then making her dear old friend look even worse. And Peach would be annoyed if she threw it, anyway. So she decided to let the final turn play out like it would, and rolled her final dice block, chucking it onto the ground, where she got a 6. She walked along the MPA, and landed right on a Bowser space. It was time for her to crash this party and bring some chaos. Wait. Hey. Nothing happened. Normally, she was supposed to appear in front of the player and say some nasty stuff and then do some mean thing. But with her being the player herself, it didn't seem to register. Instead, the only thing that poofed into existence was the Bowser Roulette, another chance-like instance where something extremely interesting could happen. Bowser Revolution, which reflected in an ironic way the way Bowsette overthrew Morton Koopa all those years ago to balance out the power structure in Dark Land, only to become an autocratic leader herself, was the best option. It evened out everyone's star and coin counts, which would make the rest of the game rely entirely on bonus stars, which were always a complete mystery up until the last second. Oh, or Bowser's multiplying toads, where she would transport a fake toad on the board that would hand you a Z-tar. Or better yet, she spun the roulette wheel and let it fall where she desired. Yeah, it was all supposedly luck, but she had it rigged years and years ago to land on the one she wanted based on the strength of her spin, not that anyone else knew that. Otherwise, that 100-star present option would actually mean something, and that wasn't happening. And there it landed. On Bowser's appearing act. Now Bowser was set to transport somewhere on the map, roll 3 dice blocks, and steal all the stars in her way. But Bowsette, being an actual player on the board, had other plans. She rolled the dice blocks, which were also rigged, as was the deal with these party sabotages, and walked right over to a very special happening space. There, a giant scuttlebug swooped down and stole a star. She rolled another dice, landed on another happening space, and confronted a particularly angry Magic Koopa who handed her 3 Z-tars. That's what she was looking for. Z-tars. Yes. One more happening space on her final roll and she confronted a Wiggler who made her pay 10 coins to pass over a bridge. That wasn't too interesting. Whatever. At the end, now Bowsette had only 6 stars, far away from the lead. Everything was perfect now, Mario or someone could win just like that. Tumble came back to the party at the end and danced around the place for a bit.
So, how'd you all do? It was fun.
Mario shouted.
Yeah,
Luigi exclaimed.
I'm a winner,
Peach said. DK grunted incomprehensibly. He totally knew how to speak, so Bowsette was a bit confused.
Okay, so here's the bonus stars. Let's go. For the winner of the most mini-games, Mario.
Mario stepped forward and took a star.
And, a very special award. We're converting all Z-tars into 2 stars.
So, Bowsette got 6 stars more instead of losing stars. Oops. Now she had 13 again.
And for the player who landed on the most happening spaces, Bowsette, you get a new star. Congratulations!
Yay! 14 stars. Amazing!
Finally, our last award. The player with the most coins gets all their coins converted into stars at 10 coins per star. Peach, come get it!
Peach stepped forward, and cashed in her eye-popping 300 coins for a spectacular total of 30 stars.
You win!
Tumble screamed.
Yeah, Peach is the winner.
Geez. Bowsette wanted to eat her hat right now, if she had a hat. These parties were the dumbest thing ever, as it turned out. End of chapter. Chapter 47, Chapter 47, Fancy Dinner at Sirena Beach. Chapter 47, Classy Dinner at Sirena Beach. Bowsette dug into her meat pasta dish and looked out the window to the sun setting over Isle Delfino. The sky had lit up in a brilliant mix of oranges, blues, and purples, the warm glow of the tropical day fading into the cool hues of the evening. After the party, they took a boat back to the main island where they spent the day shopping around Delfino Plaza, playing an infuriating game of pachinko, and going Fantamanta watching at the beach. If they had more time they probably would have visited Pinna Park too, but that was enough for its own trip, really. It was just fun to be doing all of this now, as much as they could cram into one short trip. After this, they'd be going on an adventure once again, and probably wouldn't be done for a really long time. Well, Bowsette and Peach would. She wasn't sure who all was going with them, but that would probably be worked out soon enough.
And then Colorado was like, we have to save it. My wallet's in there.
Goombella shouted, before bursting into laughter along with Mario.
Man, I miss the guy, but he sure was a real card sometimes.
Bowsette had no idea what she was talking about most of the time. Goombella was like a completely different woman than herself, and that's probably why Mario liked her so much. What she couldn't understand, of course, was the reverse. What was the deal with Mario? Every girl around was always just fawning over him like he was some big bulky superhero. Bowsette when she was a full-fledged Koopa had way more muscles than that pudgy plumber. In fact, she was pretty shredded now, too. She had abs that stretched on towards infinity and somehow it was Mario who was getting all the attention, all the time. It couldn't have just been his charming, happy-go-lucky attitude. No way. Nor his admittedly finely maintained mustache, nor his sparkling blue eyes. Okay, fine, the guy was a hunk of meat pie. Didn't mean it didn't drive her crazy with jealousy. Even Peach, who was sitting next to Bowsette and with whom she had made some very firm, very solid, very implied plans to meet in the bathtub later this evening, was enthralled with Mario in their current conversation.
Oh, Mario,
Peach said.
Remember that time you and I went to Robo-Land with Luigi and Toad and we had to talk to that Dr. Nerdnick guy all the time? Wasn't that awful?
Bowsette was there too, you know. Sure, she was trying to capture the 4 of them, but still.
You know what else is interesting?
Bowsette chimed in.
That time we all took down Smithy together. Hey? Remember that? Wait, you guys all 3 did that together?
Goombella asked.
I always thought that was one of Mario's solo adventures. Gee, what was that like? Oh, it was mostly Mario, Peach said. He led the way. We just tagged along, right Bowsette? You were the big heavy fighter and I was holding a big frying pan, and then… Gino and Mallow.
The four of them held a moment of silence. Yeah, that was Bowsette's fault too. As was everything. She really shouldn't bring up any conversation about anything, ever. Just gonna eat this spaghetti and wait this stupid conversation through.
I wonder what the Axum Rangers are doing these days,
Peach said.
You never hear about them anymore. Landscaping,
said Mario.
That's all. Man, I thought our adventure out to get Bowsette's powers back were cool, but…
Goombella would have shrugged here, but she had no shoulders.
I think I'm starting to appreciate being a university professor, honestly.
She giggled.
Once classes start again, I'm gonna have a lot of fun grading papers. I'm completely serious. Oh, what are you teaching this semester?
Peach asked.
Goombology 5300, Goombas in History. After Goombas passed away, there's been a lot of controversy and discussion, so it's going to be a really lively class. You should sit in sometime. Maybe if I have a good disguise,
she laughed. Everyone assumed Bowsette had killed Goombas, but the guy really did just died of a heart attack. It actually wasn't her fault this time. But she couldn't help feeling terrible about it. Mario, Peach, and Goombella continued having a good time at this dinner, but Bowsette for the most part just twirled her fork around and pretended to look content. There was probably no redeeming her for all the idiotic, rude, merciless things she did. Coming out here to rest and relax was improving her health, but not her spirits. She realized that the road to convincing her old allies to rejoin her and take back Dark Land from Morton Koopa was going to be next to impossible, for all the ways she had isolated and spurned them in the past, the ways that her abdication had led to all of this happening in the first place. She wasn't going to be forgiven. She shouldn't have even been seeking it, really. And look at Mario over here, laughing it up with all his friends like the true hero he was. Her ultimate enemy, and she was dining with him just because they were on the same side? Lourdes Bowser had reached a new low. The time they had teamed up to defeat Smithy was a fun victory that defeated a machine empire that threatened to take over the entire planet. But it was also only a team-up because Bowsette was humiliated and defeated in her own castle. That was the way it always went. Grr. She hated Mario. Always had, always would. What a huge jerk, flirting with two women at the same time, flashing her those cute glances and acting like Bowsette was actually his friend. They weren't friends. They were temporary allies, and when this was all over they would never speak again except for in the midst of armed combat. End of chapter. Chapter 48, Chapter 48, Comfortable. Chapter 48, Comfortable. Ah. She it. Bowsette wrapped some bed sheets around herself and adjusted her choker with her free hand. It was a lot tighter than she realized it should have been. Her other hand, of course, was currently wrapped around Mario as the man rested himself on Bowsette's body. This was the biggest screw-up she had been in a while. No pun intended. But surprisingly, it felt pretty nice. Which was weird. She took a few moments to catch her breath and process what had just happened, and she could barely even remember what led up to all of this. They were heading back to their hotel rooms, and then she noticed Mario heading back into her room without Goombella, and then… What the hell was she thinking? No. What was Peach going to think if she found out that Bowsette and Mario had… Bowsette's life was ruined. And worst of all, she felt pretty comfortable about it, too. How could she be relaxing at a time like this?
Oh, Mario, what did we do? Each other,
Mario muttered.
Oh yeah, right.
Well, they were currently in the midst of cuddling, and Bowsette was really enjoying it, so she might as well begin the pillow talk, something she was never quite good at because her conversations inevitably got a lot more vulnerable than her partners were willing to put up with. She wouldn't let that happen this time.
Am I a failure, Mario?
Bowsette asked. Oh well. Here it goes.
What's a failure?
Mario asked.
I mean, maybe a failure is. The dictionary definition is like, a picture of me. I've never accomplished anything in my life that hasn't ended up hurting someone else somewhere along the lines. My quest to fulfill myself has engulfed the entire continent in strife and war, and now I have to start a war just to try and end it. Isn't that crazy? That's life. That's life for me, at least,
she said. She began rubbing Mario's back, which had a weird hairiness to it.
For you, you always win. You always get the girl, or girls in many cases. You get to eat cake. You're a hero. The things I do always mess everything up, but the things you do just fix them. Not a true, Bowsette. What do you mean?
Mario scooted up his body a bit and kissed Bowsette while holding her shoulders.
Sometimes I make things worse too. Every time I defeat you, I make you unhappy. Someone always gets hurt, all the time.
His head disappeared under the covers.
But I'm the bad guy? Whoa there Mario, not again so soon. Oh, Mario.
She started breathing more heavily again.
Who knew you ever knew how to treat a lady? I had to learn, or else all that rescuing kidnapped women would have been for nothing. Well, get in here and rescue me again,
Bowsette said. He did. And after that, Bowsette continued her weirdly confessional conversation.
What I mean to say is, we're rivals. Hurting each other is the whole goal. But we're not so different, you and I. I guess not. So you don't always feel like you were the ultimate hero for everything. No, I do,
Mario said.
I just have to look past all the things that maybe I caused that weren't my fault. If I save the Battle Belt Galaxy, maybe some brutals will move in and take it over a week later because I blew up all the cannons. But that doesn't mean it was my fault. I did what I thought was right, and that was enough. So when I took over the Mushroom Kingdom, that one was probably pretty stupid. But maybe the Mushroom Kingdom needed a little push. It was never as stable as it looked. That's what Peach was worried about. Well, we're not Peach, are we? We can let her worry about that. Mario leaned in for another kiss, but Bowsette rebuffed him. Is that why we? Because I look like Peach now? Are you okay that I'm not like her in the same way? Bowsette, I've met a lot of different women from all different types of backgrounds. Every one of them has the same fear. What if I'm not as good as the rest? And you're no different. But I will treat you the same way I'll treat any woman. With respect. Does that mean you love me? Because I don't love you. I'm sorry. Nah. Mario doesn't do love. Heartbroken by Peach rebuffing us both. Nah, that was just to get back at you. I did try to kill you.
They kissed a few more times after that.
I do have to ask, though.
Bowsette began.
Are we still cool? Are we still enemies and rivals? Yeah, don't worry,
Mario said.
We won't let this get in the way of fighting each other at every chance we get. After you get Dark Land back, we can go back to normal and it'll all work out. I'm glad we got this out of the way now, though, hey. Yeah.
Bowsette wasn't sure about any of that. She wasn't sure what would happen after they defeated Morton Koopa and she returned to the throne of Bowser's kingdom, which she would immediately decide to rename the moment she gained back control. I mean, come on. She wasn't sure she wanted things to go back to normal in the same way, especially not that she had now embraced herself as the woman she maybe always was on the inside. But she was glad Mario felt that way, at least. This night was the most Bowsette had ever heard Mario talk in her decades of life knowing him. And it would be the most she would ever hear. But most importantly, it made Bowsette realize one thing: she was kinda sexually frustrated before. She was a lot more okay now. At least until she had to face Peach in the morning. End of chapter. Chapter 49, Chapter 49, Undue Consequences. Chapter 49, Undue Consequences.
No. Yes. Absolutely not. It's possible. Never in a million years. End. Let's go to a commercial break.
MC Ballyhoo yelled, before the stage lights cut out and the audience politely clapped. He turned to his two guests, oil tycoon Ratatouille named Lumpy and the mayor of Down Under Land, T. Perth.
So guys. I'm going to need you two to be a little more cheerful when we come back, okay? My show's a fun time. For fun stuff.
Lumpy laughed.
I'm having a good time.
T. Perth frowned.
You're sadistic. Save it for the camera,
Ballyhoo said. In a moment, the advertisements ended and the show started back up.
Okay, guys, welcome back.
The audience let out a single woo.
We're continuing our discussion between Lumpy and T. Perth right now, where they are discussing the future of the Mushroom Kingdom.
T. Perth leaned back as a show of confidence.
And as I was saying, I believe in Princess Peach and her government is as strong and capable as ever, even despite the likes of people like you. Me?
Lumpy asked.
My only defense is that I am spending a lot of time and a whole lot of money trying to give certain regions the advantages they deserve, while Princess Peach was seen taking a vacation in Isle Delfino last week, on the kingdom's tax dollars no doubt. Down Under Land's independence should not even be a question. I support it, as do 46% of your citizens. We are one small island,
T. Perth said.
We don't have the ability to sustain ourselves on the world stage. Therefore, the Mushroom Kingdom does it for us. We only have to worry about our own affairs, then. So you enjoy being treated like a second-rate colony?
Lumpy asked.
When Bowsette comes back, will you be expecting the Mushroom Kingdom to aid Down Under Land against attack? Well. Because the Lumpy Oil Conglomerate Association, Limited would help for sure. Just like we helped the Dry Republic. But that was only so you could suck their oil reserves dry. My. Reading off the castle-approved talking points, now, are we? You're despicable,
T. Perth growled.
I am just a benefactor, and I support any and all secession movements that bring regions greater prosperity,
said Lumpy. MC Ballyhoo felt the warm glow of higher ratings basking over him. His comment to tone it down only spiced it up, and that was exactly his goal.
And that was when Bowsette took out her axe and sliced the thwomp in half.
The two Hammer Bros hatchlings chased each other around, reenacting the scene they had heard so often from the others in the village. Bowsette. That was the common name given to the mysterious hero who had appeared and freed the Chaos Castle prison a couple months ago, but then had disappeared as quickly as she came. No one knew who she was or where she came from, but her glimmering, spiked shell and curvaceous horns were the striking images used as symbols for her power. Bowsette was a constant source of adoration for the local villages out in the outskirts of Dark Land, where there was not much to be found but farms and hideaway rebels. Wendy Koopa wished she could be as strong as this Bowsette woman. She had wished and prayed for a moment to escape her grandfather's shell and break out into her own, just like most of her brothers. But she had an important task to play, apparently. As the only Koopaling on the inside, she was the only one who could do exactly what she was doing right now. She entered the hut, where an elder Koopa and two Lakitus were huddled around a small blue Podabo.
It's you again?
The elder Koopa grunted.
Yes. I wanted to meet here again to ask you an important question. Anything for my favorite daughter?
This elder was not entirely in his best state of mind these days, which struck Wendy as something sad, but his information was almost universally reliable otherwise.
I heard something in the throne room the other day I was wondering if you would know about. You ever heard about Dreadlords?
The elder Koopa's eyes went wide.
Heard of them? Everyone's heard of them. In legend and myth, they were great dragons of darkness that brought destruction and chaos to the world for 2 eons. They were finally stopped, but their dark power...
The elder trailed off and didn't finish the sentence.
Elder Koopa?
Wendy asked.
Oh, right. Dreadlords. Their bones, daughter. Their bones are hidden throughout the world, clamoring to reunite and bring forth incredible destruction, because that is their sole purpose. If you wander into a cave on your own, and you encounter one, you will only have yourself to blame. Stay out of the wilderness, and you'll be safe. I think my grandfather is planning on doing something about the Dreadlords,
Wendy said.
Do you know how I could perhaps stop it? Grandfather? No, my grandfather's been dead 200 years.
The elder Koopa balked. He started chuckling.
Silly girl.
Suddenly, several Koopa trolls burst into the hut. And so did Dry Morton himself.
Finally,
Morton said.
I have you in a compromising position, Wendy. Yeah, you do. I knew there was a mole in the court. I just didn't expect it to be you. I expected it to be one of the Monty moles. Wait, I can X.
Without hesitation, Morton raised a magic wand, pointed it, and blasted his granddaughter. She was turned to stone in an instant. King Mallow sat at his throne and brooded, as he always did. The weather was cloudy, as usual. The castle was quiet, as it often was. And his servants tried their best to do their activities in silence, so as not to disturb him as he watched the door in front of him. There were several scars across his face. He was not fit for marriage any longer, and so he would rule Nimbus Land with quiet power, as he was always fated to do. He would seethe in anger and wait. Wait until something. He didn't know. He didn't make the rules. As long as everyone was quiet and calm, he probably wouldn't explode. And naturally, at this moment, the castle doors slammed open and a paracupa came flapping in, holding a letter.
"Delivery for King Mallow!"
he shouted. The paracupa handed him a letter and then bid his adieu. Mallow was left with a large envelope in his hands, encased with the royal seal of House Toadstool. What could this be? He opened it up, and what he saw brought a scowl to his face, his scars tensing up and lighting zipped out of his very being. It was a series of photographs. Black and white, showing Princess Peach laughing while sitting by a fireplace in her castle. And next to her, holding hands with her, was none other than the demon lordess, the molten menace herself. Bowsette. The Mushroom Kingdom was a sham. Princess Peach was a callous and devil of a woman. Mallow's entire life had been ruined by that monster. She defeated him in combat, stole the precious sonic symbols, and had the mushroom armies invade Nimbus Land, destroying his family in the process. And yet, despite all that, she was making her way back towards the throne without even the least bit resistance. He crushed the photographs in his hands, and sparks flew out of his mouth while he growled. Revenge was all he could think about. Cookie-coo, oh my Brighton, are you okay? Lucky Lulu, what? Cookie-coo, there's some Koopas marching outside. Cookie-coo, if we're still at work PLS stay there RN. Lucky Lulu, okay. Lucky Lulu, I am at a friend's house but I'll wait until later. Cookie-coo, THX I am just worried. Petalburg was supposed to be safe. Lucky Lulu, / Cookie-coo, I am gonna keep working on my paper today I guess. Lucky Lulu, okay be safe Cookie. Cookie-coo? Cookie-coo, where are you? Lucky Lulu, sorry got held up I am on my way. Cookie-coo, protesters are still here. Cookie-coo, try to sneak around back. Cookie-coo, or something. Cookie-coo, Brighton I hope you're okay. Cookie-coo, did your phone die? Cookie-coo, did you die? Cookie-coo, okay I've decided I am just gonna cry myself to sleep now. Cookie-coo, Lulu you suck. Cookie-coo, JK Illo. Cookie-coo, Lulu. Message read 1:53 AM. Cookie-coo, where are you? If you don't tell me what's happening I'm going to call the cops, or something. Please. I'm freaking out. Cookie-coo, this is the last message I'll send. I'm serious. Lucky Lulu, something happened. Cookie-coo, OMB Lulu you're alright. Lucky Lulu, but I don't think you're going to be happy. I am leaving Petalburg. Cookie-coo, what the heck are you talking about? Lucky Lulu, I lied about last night. Lucky Lulu, I was at the protests. I marched with the other Koopas because I am tired of toads telling us what we can and can't do. It's ridiculous. Kupiku, what? Kupiku, stop. Kupiku, don't be dumb, you have work tomorrow, you'll be fired. Lucky Lulu, I don't care about work anymore. We're propping up a business that supports the stuff that puts us down. Lucky Lulu, you may be better off, BC, you're a pretty Koopa and even Goombas probably like you. But I am a Lucky too and it's different. You probably don't understand. Lucky Lulu, I love you but I am going to support my friends. Kupiku, just come back or I am gonna hate you forever. Kupiku, don't make me hate you forever, BC Illo. Lucky Lulu, you might love someone who cheers you on, but if you really loved me you'd understand how I am feeling. I don't think you do. Kupiku, baby. Lucky Lulu, you can't call me that anymore. Kupiku, Lulu, what the heck? Kupiku, please come back. Kupiku, it's too dangerous and you're going to die and I'll hate you forever and I'll never be able to love again, you're the worst. Kupiku, Illo. Kupiku, I'm sorry. Message read 4:13 p.m. End of chapter. Chapter 50, Chapter 50, Reckoning of the Mushroom Kingdom. Chapter 50, The Reckoning of the Mushroom Kingdom. The Koopa Bros fortress prison had been secretly evacuated and nobody told her. There were massive protests turned riots in Petalburg and nobody told her. She was about to leave the Mushroom Kingdom and she had been left completely in the dark about her own people. She slapped Toadsworth in the face.
Why would I have gone to Isle Delfino if I knew there was chaos on the streets? Why didn't you tell me? Am my princess, dear?
But Toadsworth didn't have a clear answer to give her.
Perhaps I'm not the ruler I thought I was,
she said.
Oh, don't say that, princess.
Bowsette jumped from the balcony and then stopped 6 inches from the ground, floating with her dress. She had a large backpack on behind her shell and her wings had sprouted briefly before she landed. It was a mistake to ever help her, Peach realized. For the safety and stability of the Mushroom Kingdom, it was a mistake. Bringing to the castle and going to foreign lands, this former despot was always going to unsettle the populace. And they didn't even know about her yet. She was going to be leaving her kingdom in its time of greatest need, and she had to because it would otherwise mean the end of the entire earth. And because she cared too much. It was so complicated, so confusing, that is why she felt so suddenly unfit to be a ruler. Peach crossed her arms.
You certainly took long enough. Hey.
Bowsette tilted her head to the side.
We have to leave before the workday starts or the press is sure to spot us. Do I have to wear that stupid bodyguard outfit again?
At this moment, the third member of the group, Toadette, arrived in her archivist outfit. It wasn't that kind of adventure, but Peach hardly cared at this point.
Let's go,
Peach said.
Toadsworth. I expect you to report in all the kingdom's dealings with me while I am gone. Twice daily, send letters to my P.O. boxes. Or else it will be the end of your career. Do you understand me? Yes, m'lady.
His cap drooped down. Bowsette laid her hand gently on her arm.
You okay? Never better,
Peach lied.
Should we get to the underground entrance, then? You know what?
Peach shot her head forward and began walking to the front door.
I'm not going to lie to my people anymore. I want them to know who I am as a ruler. Come on out with me, Bowsette.
Sure enough, as soon as they stepped outside there were reporters and protesters and supporters gathered all over the castle grounds. Apparently the entrance gate had been broken down and her good-for-nothing guards had failed to stop the onslaught of people. This was the perfect time for those jailbroken Koopa Troop militia members to come in and try to wreak havoc, too. But Peach felt far too upset with herself to care too much about that. She grabbed Bowsette's hand and forced her to step up to the castle entrance with her, where the two greeted these hundreds if not thousands of people. The ruckus quickly stopped as they realized what was going on.
My dear Mushroom Kingdom citizens, Peach began. I have an announcement to make. I have made my pardon of Bowsette official, and she had accepted my gift of a royal power-up, the Super Crown. With equanimity I have decided that it will be best for our nation if we are to make peace with each other, not to fight. And that is my token of that. Because of an important and time-sensitive issue, Bowsette and I must go forth on a diplomatic mission and will be traveling within and without the Mushroom Kingdom for a brief period. All I can add to this is, if you are disappointed in me, then I apologize. If I am not the ruler you wanted, then I apologize. If you want me to reverse course on these decisions of mine, then I also apologize. It will not happen.
The crowd was completely silent as Peach, Bowsette, and Toadette stepped into the Royale, Peach's personal vehicle, and drove away from the castle grounds.
Wow,
Bowsette said. She and Toadette were crammed together in the back seat.
World's really going to shit, ain't it? Yeah. Also, didn't know you could drive. I'm a princess, not a mongrel. Of course I can drive. Geez, it was a joke. Maybe it's not the best time for jokes, Bowsette.
From the rearview mirror, Peach saw Bowsette's face turn red and her body slump over. Toadette was also pretending like she wasn't listening so she didn't have to get involved in the conversation. They stayed quiet the rest of their trip. It was a very long way to Hwomp's fortress, however. End of chapter.